in last session we discussed about how we can define the plastic hinge for beam elements, how we can use the ASC41 methodology for nonlinear modeling of beam elements. ASC41 provides us the modeling parameters, which means the action deformation relationship, moment rotation relationship specifically for beams, as well as the acceptance criteria. So it provides us the complete information which we need in order to define the plastic hinges for beams. So we will extend that discussion for columns, RC columns. But before going to columns, I want to show you that once you define the M3 hinge for beams and then you run the nonlinear static or nonlinear dynamic analysis, then how you can actually see the hinge results for beams after running the nonlinear analysis. So in order to discuss that, let's go to ETABS now, and I will show you that how you can extract or visualize the results for plastic hinges after the analysis. So let me go to ETABS now. Okay, so this is that same model, and I have already defined the plastic hinges for all the beams in this model, and I have also run the example nonlinear static and nonlinear dynamic analysis. So I have one pushover load case and one nonlinear dynamic analysis load case. So if I want to see the deflected shape, I can go to this show deformed shape option, and then I can select either of the two load cases. So I have mode 1 push. This is the pushover load case, and it is in the monotonic push in X direction, and it has several number of steps. So I can select any number of step, and then I can click on apply to get the deformed shape. So now the program will show me the deformed shape of the structure at this particular step of the pushover analysis, 28th step, and then the color of each of these dots is showing the hinge states. So I can either color code them using the points on the given action deformation curve. So if you can remember, the point A was origin in the hinge properties, point B was the yield point, point C was the point from where the strength starts degrading, then D was the point at which we have the residual strength, and E was the last point, and this is the last point of the action deformation curve, beyond which the strength can either be extrapolated or can be dropped to 0. We can also color code the plastic hinges at this particular step of the analysis in terms of IO, LS and CP, which we have given as an input in the plastic hinge property. So we can have two options. We can again go back and review these plastic hinge properties if we want. So I can go to section properties and then frame wall nonlinear hinges, and then I can see any of the generated hinges here. These is the list of whole plastic hinges which were generated automatically. So I can just click on any hinge and I can modify show the property data. So these A, B, C, D, E points are shown here on the action deformation curve. So we know already that if a hinge crosses point B, it is yielded already. It is already in the post yield range. If a beam crosses point C, for example, it is already in the strength degraded range. It is already in the residual strength range. So we know that what is the meaning of each of these points. Alternatively, we can also color code the hinges based on these numbers, IU, LS and CP. So in that case, we will have basically three colors. Blue means that the hinge actually is in the range of IO, immediate occupancy. This color means that it is in the life safety, and green in here means that it is in the collapse prevention. By the way, these colors are not matching with this legend which is shown here. Here, the red means collapse prevention, IO is green, and LS is blue. So they are not matching, but you should see this legend if you want to interpret these Hinge results graphically like this. So all the beams and columns, because for shear walls and columns I used fiber modeling in this model. For beams I used plastic hinge modeling. So if I want to specifically see the results of a particular beam hinges, I can go to display and then again these hinge results. Just like fiber modeling results, I can again go to the same option and individually see the results of each hinge which I want. So here maybe there is some error. Let me see. Let me expand that view and then let me select the load case first. So I can either select the nonlinear static load case or nonlinear dynamic load case. Let's have only the nonlinear static first. The hinge degree of freedom is M3. We have basically defined M3 plastic hinges. Story, I can select, let's say, any story, and then object type should be frame. Frame type should be beams if I want to see the hinge results. So as soon as I have clicked this beam, I can either select a particular beam with its label, or it will automatically list all those beams which are located at story 5. And then if I select a particular beam, let's say B8, then I have to select which of the hinges, because that B8 hinge will again have two hinges, one on one end of the beam and other on the other end. So I can select either of these hinges, and then all these are some of the display settings. But here you can see the action deformation curve which was given to that particular hinge. Now the red color shows the input behavior for that particular hinge, and the blue line shows that the demand line, or the action and the corresponding deformation produced by the applied loading. And these markers here, blue color, the cyan color, and then again this green color, these are the acceptance criteria numbers on that particular hinge. So here the color while defining the acceptance criteria is basically the color of these markers. So we have IO, then LS, and then here last point is CP. So now we can compare. We have both of the pictures on the same graph. We have the input capacity, red line, along with the IO, LS, and CP, and we also have the demand produced by the applied loading, which is a pushover load case in this particular example. So you can see here that the building was pushed in one direction only, so there was response only in one direction, and it reached up to only the yield point. And since we have selected the IO level uh, slightly beyond the yield point, so therefore we can say in this example that this particular beam has not crossed even the IO level. It has not significantly yielded, or it has not crossed this dark blue IO level. So I can go for any other beam or any other, you can say, story level and see the similar results. So here you can see that the same load case have pushed that particular plastic hinge up to this point and not beyond that point. So in this particular pushover load case, none of the beams, in fact very few beams have actually yielded. So I can check one by one all the results, or I can also extract the results of all of the plastic hinges by going to display, show tables, and in that I can go to analyze results, and then hinge results. It will show us three forms. One is the hinge states. It shows the plastic hinge results. the maximum demands produced by the produced in these hinges by the applied loading. And I can also go for fiber hinge states, because the first option will only show us the plastic hinges, concentrated plastic hinges results. The second option will show us the fiber hinges results. And the third option will show us the individual fiber results for all the fiber hinges. So if I select any of these, it will take maybe 4 or 5 minutes to actually load that detailed table for each of the hinge state. But individually, graphically, if you want to see the results, this will be the view where you can select a particular beam and a particular hinge in that beam, and it will show us the input behavior and the demand produced by the applied force, which means the output at the same time. So in just one figure, we can quickly see the state or condition of a particular beam or a particular hinge. So similarly, you can also go for some other options, or in fact, if I want to show you for dynamic analysis, let me change the analysis type from pushover to an example nonlinear dynamic analysis, and let's see how the results are changed. You can see here again I have to select degrees of freedom, then story number, and then a particular beam, and then in that beam a particular hinge. So you can see here, since dynamic analysis have actually is a dynamic is based on dynamic force, and uh, the beam is loaded in both positive moment and negative moment. So therefore we have these cycles on the action deformation curve. But since beam has not significantly yielded, it has not it has not gone beyond this yield point. So therefore, there is no area in those loops. They are all closely spaced. So which means just beam have remained in linear portion or linear range. If certain beam has yielded, therefore we will see in that case some of the loops formed due to this applied loading, dynamic loading. So let's see some of the any other beam, maybe at the basement. If some beam has yielded, so it will show you the loops also. So in this case, maybe let's see some other beam. Some of the beams have very low seismic demands. So for example, in this case, you can see that the actual blue line, the peak numbers are very less compared to the yield capacity of that beam. So which means that this particular beam and this particular hinge has produced a very, you can say, low demand to capacity ratio. So it is not fully utilized, you can say like that. But some may have very high demands, some may even yield also, but in this particular example, I may not be able to find a beam which has actually yielded. Okay, this one not significantly yielded, but maybe slightly yielded. So this is an example of a beam which have actually go slightly beyond that pink point, but still, since we have used the ASC 41 acceptance criteria, and in that we have the IO level here, so this beam also have demand which is less than the IO level. So, but still, since it have yielded, so therefore it has shown some loops here following the hysteretic behavior which we have given as an input. So here you can actually see the results of a particular analysis, you can say, which you have run, and then each of the hinge you can say. And if you want to see the demand values at a particular time step, you can also give the number here. For example, I say 20, and I can just press enter. So this point which was originally at origin, it will move to this level. So at that 20th second of the analysis, all the current step data is updated now. You can see here that this is the number at that 20th second. What is the plastic rotation in the 3 direction? What is the moment in the 3 direction? 88. So this is 88 number here, this dot, and maximum and minimum rotations are also shown here, and hinge state, both in terms of IOLS and CP, and both in terms of the points on the action deformation curve. So B2 less than or equal to C. So it means that this particular hinge have crossed the point B, but it is less than or equal to point C. So it is in this range. It is in this strain hardening range or over strength range. If you talk about in terms of IULS and CP, it is between point A to less than IU. So A point is the origin and IU point is this one. So it is between point A and less than IU. So all this data will be shown in the tabular form if you go to this display, show tables, and then hinge results. All those results you can extract in the tabular form if you use these three options. In this particular beam example, you only need this one table, hinge states. And in the tabular form, you will see for all load cases and for all hinges which you have defined for beams, it will show you the maximum demands and hinge state, hinge status, and everything. So one more thing, how you can actually see the beam labels. I think let me just close this view and let me go to undeformed shape and some plan view, maybe story 10. You can quickly see, maybe go to down, maybe story 9, okay, here. You can see the beam labels here in this set display options, and in the other object assignments you can click on labels in the frame assignments and you can click apply. So here you can see these are the beam labels, and if you want to find the results of a particular beam in the table or in the graphical form, you should note down its label. But that label will be same for each of the story. For example, if I go down, you can see here that for this, for example, this B34, the same beam at each story is B34. So label is not changing as you go from one story to another story. So it means that if you want to extract the results of this particular beam for all of the story levels, so you just need this number B34, and then for each of the story level you extract for B34. So you can plot the profile of beam rotation along the height, or for a particular column you can plot any demand quantity along the height. So this is a very useful option if you want to plot the profile along the height. So you just need to know the label of a particular frame element, and then from the detailed tables you can extract the results for that particular label. For each of the story level it will give you the results for that label. There is another thing called unique number. So here if I go to again the set view options and in the object assignments, there is a unique name also. That will be different for each story. So label will be same for each story for one particular layout, for one particular frame element, but unique number will be different for each story. So for example, if I display unique names, in that case, for example, this beam have a unique number, unique name 373, but if I go down or go up, it will be different, 374. So which means that one particular frame element will have only one unique name in the whole model. But for example, if you talk about the labels, each floor level may have different labels, but the same labels will be used for another floor level also. So this is a difference between label and unique name. So you can sort out the results either by unique name or by labels. Whenever you go to display and results in show tables, you will see that for each element you can find that element in two ways, either by using its label in a particular story level or by its unique name. In that case, there is no need to mention story level because that will be a unique name in the whole model for a particular frame element. So I think that's all about this hinge results discussion. and we can extend our discussion further to columns. But before going to columns, I want to show you one more result which you can extract from the nonlinear dynamic analysis. Once you carry out the nonlinear dynamic analysis, nonlinear time history analysis, there is another very useful uh, output or quantity which you can see, which can give the insight into the inelastic dynamic behavior of the structure, and that is the energy dissipation. If you go to display after the analysis and you go to cumulative energy components, this option will actually tell you that how much of the energy of the applied loading has dissipated by which component of the structure. For example, here in this graph it will show me the energy value on y-axis and step or time on x-axis. So here I have selected, I think, the pushover analysis, so therefore the analysis step is shown on the x-axis. But if I go for the time history analysis, this example time history analysis which I have conducted, so the graph will be changed and we will have time on the x-axis. So as the analysis proceed, how the energy of the applied loading is being dissipated by structure itself, that information is shown on this graph. So I repeat again that how much of the energy is being dissipated by which component or which energy dissipating mechanism from the structure side. It is shown as the analysis is proceeding either in the time domain or as the number of steps of the analysis are increasing. So let me first talk about the dynamic analysis, nonlinear dynamic analysis. You can see here that in the legend you can see different kinds of energy dissipations. I will start with the highest number, which is the pink color, and this is the global damping. The global damping is coming from the inherent viscous damping which we have provided in our computer model. It is basically coming from that C matrix or damping matrix which we have given as an input. So while defining the nonlinear dynamic analysis load case, we have actually provided the damping information which the program have used to construct the C matrix or damping matrix. That was the inherent damping which we have just provided to account for all those phenomena which we cannot explicitly model. For example, friction between different elements, the energy dissipation in heat or in sound, or any other energy dissipation which we cannot actually account. We just give as an inherent viscous damping. So this big number, which is the pink color, is basically it is the amount of energy being dissipated by the inherent damping which we have given. Now let's come to this orange color, and that is the nonlinear hysteretic damping. Nonlinear hysteretic damping. This is that damping which is dissipated due to the yielding of different elements. Because once a particular element yields and it starts having different loops between action and deformation, the area enclosed by all those loops of those action deformation curves is actually the amount of energy dissipated by those elements in yielding or in going into nonlinear range. So when a particular element or a particular plastic hinge go into nonlinear range, it starts dissipating energy in addition to what is given as an inherent viscous damping, 5% or 3% or 2.5%, in addition to that. So this is called hysteretic damping or nonlinear hysteretic damping as written here. So it basically tells you an idea about how much energy is dissipated by the yielding elements and how much energy is dissipated by the inherent viscous damping. So if the orange color is significant, you can say that there is a significant inelastic action which have occurred in your computer model as a result of this analysis. And it is plotted against time, so you can actually see that which second of that particular earthquake have actually started yielding your structure, and then after that after which second it have just remained constant. So I can say that around 7th second of this particular earthquake have started causing yielding in my structure, and it have caused yielding up to maybe 15 second, and after that there is no more elements which have yielded, and actually the amount of nonlinear hysteretic damping remains constant after that. So it means that in qualitative terms, in fact, this whole figure can be interpreted in qualitative means also. That how much energy is dissipated by inelastic action, at what time a particular energy has started dissipation, and all other things can be interpreted qualitatively. So if there is a significant level of this orange color, you can say that there is significant yielding in your structure as a result of this analysis. Then you also have kinetic energy and potential energy. As the structure vibrates or oscillates under that particular applied loading, the structure will have some kinetic energy also. Kinetic energy is related to the movement or velocity of a particular object, in this case our structure. So here the green color line is actually showing us the amount of energy dissipated in kinetic as kinetic energy, and the dark blue is showing us the amount of energy dissipated as potential energy. But the two big parts are global damping and nonlinear hysteretic damping. So we can qualitatively assess that what actually how our structure have managed to dissipate the energy of the applied loading. So think of this graph as that the applied loading has some energy which it have imparted to our structure, and our structure have dissipated or consumed that energy in proportion to what is shown here. So this is how our structure have consumed that energy. If I talk about the static pushover analysis, again we have seen that the first of all, the very first observation is that since it is the static analysis and we have not defined any global damping, because it is static analysis, so there is no Cu dot term in the governing equation of motion, no damping force. So therefore the amount of energy dissipated by global damping is zero. So there is no pink color in this graph. There is only potential energy and then nonlinear hysteretic damping. So the orange color is the energy dissipated because of the yielding of elements, and then the dark blue is the potential energy. Since it is not a dynamic analysis, so there is no kinetic energy, and also we have not defined any nonlinear viscous damping. We have only uh, defined the global damping, which is the inherent viscous damping. If there was any error, it would be shown in the red color, but currently there is no error. Error means that uh, if the error is zero, which means the amount of input energy and the total amount of dissipated energy are equal. So that's how you can interpret this graph qualitatively also. This global damping is due to the inherent viscous damping which we have provided. We have provided a damping ratio while defining the load case for our dynamic analysis, and the program used that damping ratio, or for example you use Rayleigh damping or modal damping. The program used that information to construct the damping matrix and then the damping force, and then the complete dynamic equilibrium equation was solved, and then this pink color energy is the amount of energy dissipated by the structure because of its damping, because of the damping which we have provided, the inherent viscous damping. Nonlinear hysteretic damping means that it is the amount of energy dissipated in actually yielding that element. See, there are two components of energy dissipation if you talk about the action deformation curve. One is the elastic strain energy. It is the amount of energy dissipated up to the yield point, or when the structure is in the linear range. When the structure is in the nonlinear range, the applied energy is dissipated for yielding of those elements, and it goes to another. For example, if there is a reversal of forces, so it will follow a nonlinear path to another direction, opposite direction in the action deformation curve, and it will form loops. Now the area under those loops is the amount of additional energy dissipated because of this yielding. So whatever we have given as the damping ratio, the initial inherent damping, it has nothing to do with the post yield behavior of the structure. It will still remain, and it will, you can say, it will be an additional energy dissipation or separate energy dissipation which we are providing. So the hysteretic phenomena or inelasticity, yielding of elements, and cracking and crushing, all those inelastic phenomena, they are not included in the initial hysteretic damping. In the initial in the initial viscous damping. In the initial viscous damping, we account for those phenomena which we haven't modeled actually. Cracking and yielding we have actually modeled by action deformation curves. So the summary is that the global damping part or initial viscous damping part, it is accounting for example, the friction between elements which we haven't modeled explicitly. Or when I say opening and closing of cracks, I mean that there will be friction. When there will be oscillations and cracks will open or close, there will be friction. And we haven't modeled that explicitly. Similarly, heat energy, air resistance, and some other phenomena. Okay, this potential energy is actually the amount of energy stored when the structure is being loaded in the structure. So as the applied loading is increased, as you go from one loading step to another loading step, because in the pushover load case you are incrementally pushing your structure in one direction, starting from this zero load step up to maybe 34th load step maybe. So as you are pushing the structure more, the potential energy of the structure is increasing. So the elements are being strained and there is energy being stored in that. And that energy is actually coming from the applied loading. So structure is in a sense using that energy, uh, using the energy of applied loading and consuming it in the form of its potential energy. So you can see here that all the energies, they just started increasing at the 7th or 6th step, 6th second of the earthquake, and they saturated maybe up to the 20th second. So this is the range of time in which the major action have occurred in your computer model. Most of the movements, strains, deformations, or yielding, cracking, crushing, that have occurred in this range of that earthquake. So this is also one information which you can deduce qualitatively from this graph. So now let's go back to the slides, and I will discuss about the plastic hinge modeling of columns.